Thank you, Joe. This is the meditation support group from the School of Christian Mysticism. When people ask me what my spiritual orientation is, if they press me to put myself in a pigeonhole, I'll say that I'm a Christian contemplative. And they think they know what Christianity means, but they get confused about what it means to be a contemplative. For me, it's rather the other way around. I kind of understand what it means to be a contemplative and find that it transcends religion in that wonderful phrase that Tim gave us this morning in morning prayer from Teresa of Avila: put away the religion of the mind. And that's what we do in contemplative prayer or meditation, and I'm quite happy to sit with my brothers and sisters who are Buddhists or Hindus or Sufis and sit and meditate and then join in the discussion afterwards and find that we have so much common ground. Increasingly, though, I find that more difficult with groups of Christians to join in with the discussions, because they tend to want to talk about the religion of the mind. And what I regard as Christian now is becoming more distant, I think, from what many professing Christians would say they believe. And recently I've been reading about and from a chap called Swami Abhisiktananda, who's a fascinating character. He was and remained throughout his life a Benedictine monk and priest. Died in the 1970s. And he went to India full of zeal to convert the Indian people to Christianity. After he arrived there, he stayed for some time with Ramana Maharshi. Now, Ramana Maharshi, we've been hearing some quotes from him during our morning prayer. He's an Indian holy man, a self-realized being. And whilst with him, Abhisiktananda began his own spiritual awakening. He completely changed his spiritual orientation, even though his time spent with Ramana Maharshi was mostly time in silence. And after that, he never saw his Christianity the same again. He adopted the name of an Indian holy man and ultimately lived in a cave in the Himalayas, only rarely participating even in Mass, although he stayed a Benedictine monk and priest. And after his awakening, he wrote to his sister that there is in the gospel much more than Christian piety has ever discovered, and he despaired of the institutional church because of its lack of awareness of the contemplative approach. I'm going to read now briefly from his writings. He left a description of his own inner spiritual journey during contemplation. And I have to say that even after he'd written this, before it was published, he didn't really want it to be published anymore because he felt he'd already moved on from that. But this is how he felt at that time. In my own innermost center, in the most secret mirror of my heart, I tried to discover the image of him whose I am, of him who lives and reigns in the infinite space of my heart. But the reflected image gradually grew faint, and soon it was swallowed up in the radiance of its original. Step by step, I descended into what seemed to me to be successive depths of my true self, my being, my awareness of being, and my joy in being. Finally, nothing was left but he himself, the only one, infinitely alone. Being, awareness, and bliss. I had returned to my source. He wrote a little verse about it. He gazed at the image in himself, but the image vanished in the self. Nothing remained of my gazing, only that which was gazed at. I'll say that again. He gazed at the image in himself, but the image vanished in the self. Nothing remained of my gazing, only that which was gazed at. I think that anybody who engages in meditation from whatever faith background would find that that resonated with them. But sadly, I think that many people who identify themselves as Christians would not feel that that resonated with them. And Swami Abhisiktananda came into great conflict over that. He remained committed, totally committed, more committed to his Christian faith, but found that others increasingly stopped regarding him as Christian. Who decides whether we are Christian or not? Only Christ, I think. We can have a short time of silence now before we begin our discussion. Now we come gently into a time of sharing. We stop the recording at this point so that people are free to share confidentially